frankly, kind of a lot of the folks in the program are dietitians, and that certainly has evolved and grown. A lot of us have that thread of lifestyle medicine. And again, the variety and diversity of folks in the group is awesome. We have GI, dermatology, allergy, immunology, family medicine, internal medicine, pediatrics, and then seeing some of the other opportunities in the group too have really helped me think outside the box. Yes, we are physicians. We also are humans, and you're having your human experience, whether that's as a parent or a partner or a pet parent or whatever, right?
Welcome to the Master the Media podcast. I'm your host, Amy Gorin, and I'm here today with a very special guest, Kara Wada. She is not only an amazing quadruple board certified physician, love saying that, she is also a Master the Media coach, and oh my gosh, she has so much amazing stuff going on that I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Oh, thanks so much, Amy. I'm so excited to be back and to be able to have another conversation and share this work we're doing together with more folks. So I am a physician. I'm a mom of 3. I live with an autoimmune condition called Sjogren's disease and something called dysautonomia, meaning my nervous system doesn't always follow the rule book. I get a little more dizzy from time to time. And I have had a lot of fun, bringing awareness to the greater public, demystifying health myths and doing that using media work, but also using that to help take some of the pressure off my clinical work too. I see a lot of patients who have symptoms that don't always make sense. They have not always had the best experience in healthcare. A lot of them have experiences and symptoms that are similar to the experiences I've had, and that can be pretty heavy. And so I've realized I need to do some other things to help fill my cup, and also compensate for not seeing patients as much, right, financially. And so media and brand work has been a really great way to supplement my income, bring awareness with the new patients and get my name out there and have some fun too.
It is really fun.
Yeah.
And so I asked Kara on today, and you're actually our first repeat podcast guest. So congratulations.
Oh,
woo. So I asked her on today because we get so many questions, both from our Master of the Media students and just from, people in general about what am I allowed to do, especially as a physician, because, I can give advice until the cows come home, but I'm a dietitian, not a doctor. And so the regulations are, a little bit different. And Kara has successfully booked how much, I mean, if you don't mind sharing, how much,
I was trying to remember how much I've we kind of keep tally in the Master of the Media program. And I was trying to actually think yesterday of what I've reported and what I hadn't reported yet. My suspicion is we're getting close to the 50,000 mark.
I feel like confetti should fall down right now. Congratulations.
It should be built into Zoom.
Right. Master of the Media, 50K.
Yeah.
And you successfully landed this amount of brand partnership dollars, navigating the ethics of what honestly feels good, because you would only ethically accept a partnership that aligns with what you want to promote. And that also keeps in line with the, I'm going to let you talk to all the regulations like the Sunshine Act and liability and all of that, but it keeps in line with all of those protections that are in place.
Yeah. And I will say I've worked through navigating some of this, both as an employed physician initially, and now as someone who is works for herself. And there are a few differences and nuances related to that. So prior to last January of 25, I left my role on faculty at Ohio State University. And so I did do a little bit of brand work prior to my departure, and that did require some additional paperwork. So each institution is a little different in how they handle work that you do outside of the office, kind of on your own time. Certainly it needs to be on your own time. You should not be filming content at the office. And, like there often are some pretty strict regulations related to that. And also, there was additional paperwork that needed to be signed by the chair of my department to say, yes, this is okay for you to engage in this. And here are some other, you can or cannot say that you work for, XYZ organization. Those are some things that are really important to nail down before you go doing this work. It's
so that there's
worth getting some permission as opposed to begging for forgiveness.
So there's no confusion about, you are operating on your own as a practitioner, not in association with the organization that you're employed by.
Yeah, correct. So I think that is important as you kind of think through that and the timeline of what you're doing too. Now, as of the end of January of last year, I have been on my own. And so I don't have to answer to those folks anymore, but I do have to answer to myself. And I think that's been really important. Like I have big goals in regards to building a platform that really has impact and has potential to really change care for those of us living with Sjogren's disease and autoimmune disease, allergies, even as a whole. And I'm protective of that. There are a lot of conversations about, where is the line between, when do you become a grifter? And and so at the end of the day, I want to make decisions that that feel okay in my gut, that aren't going to have me waking up at 2 or 3 in the morning, like in a panic, about have I sold my soul type thing, right?
And that just to pause there, you should, no matter if you are a doctor or a dietitian or anyone, you could be, a home decorator listening to this podcast, never, ever, ever cross that line. I just want to make that 100,000% clear that you should never feel like you're compromising your integrity or your morals when you're working with brands. Continue.
I think for each of us, there will be a little bit of, certainly there is never going to be a one size fits all line in regards to where that is to cross. But for me, I kind of asked myself a few questions. One, is this a product or medication or what have you, an intervention that I personally use? Like, I think not everything will be, but I personally on myself and or in care for my patients, how comfortable do I feel in using it? Has it been effective? What is the evidence? What's the level of evidence? And how, can I speak to the nuance related to often, especially when it comes to things that aren't necessarily FDA approved for a particular condition? What is the evidence? Where are the gaps? And I think that is one thing that I like to be open about with my patients and with those that I'm talking to more broadly of, here's what we have, here's what we don't have. Here might be a reason to potentially try XYZ, but always consult with your own healthcare, team. I have been pretty cautious and conscientious about things in the supplement realm, in part because I used a superfood supplement and it was not so super for my liver. So I am just extra cautious kind of with that aspect of, kind of where I'm partnering, what I'm partnering with.
And you
Um,
actually, you that like sent you to the emergency room, right?
not I was able to avoid the ER only because I have immense privilege and had people's cell phone numbers, but I did end up with a liver biopsy and a piece of my liver ended up at the NIH because it looked funny and the OSU folks were like, we want some other experts to look at.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
never a good thing to be interesting, medically speaking. The good news is everything got better when I stopped it. But yeah, so I am just extra kind of conscientious about that. Um, I personally love using different like skincare, bath and body type product, and there's a lot of crossover with folks that I care for regarding that. I also just happen to be a millennial woman, mom, those sorts of things that I kind of use day to day, and some other tie-ins with other,
And that's a
home
good
related
point
stuff.
too, is like not every partnership has to be medical because you're a doctor. Like, if I'm correct, that's a humidifier behind you, right?
Correct. That's actually, yes, the company that we met through Master the Media. And so one of the things with Sjogren is it causes a lot of dryness. And so, and airway irritation. And so, yes, I have a little humidifier and air purifier that they were very kind in gifting me, along with being paid for some work that I did with them.
So basically at the end of the day, like a partnership could be it could be like the shampoo you wash your hair with. It could be like, the after sport sandals you wear around the house. It could be literally anything.
Anything. Yeah. And I have been exploring work. So within the conditions I care for a lot of patients who have chronic hives. I care for a lot of patients who have this autoimmune condition called Sjogren's disease. And there are a couple really exciting new medications that have recently been approved or are in the process of like going to be approved any day now. And so I've really been working to position myself to do some brand work with pharma. And there are some additional considerations when doing work with pharma. The rates are a little more set in regards to we don't have as much flexibility, but the rates are still good.
And
And it's an
what you mean,
enormous platform.
like what you mean by that is like normally in Master the Media we teach like, okay, like suggest your pricing, give a bunch of different option, like a
Yeah.
bunch, I mean like two or three different options for pricing that might fall between like 10 and 30,000, but you're saying like they already have their price points in mind.
Correct. And they're somewhat fixed in that there are kind of market rates that they have to stick with, which are not quite as high as what I have commanded, for instance, like with body wash reel, for instance. That being said, it also is this enormous platform, and I'm okay with, taking a little lower rate for that exposure and the experience too.
And when we say lower, like like can you give either an example or like give a percentage difference?
I So the best example, I was able to go out and do some work related to a new hives medication. I traveled out to the studio, like the studios associated with the company. It was about a 24-ish hour trip um, through a series of events, not weather related. I ended up, at least on the way there, having first class seats because they were the only seats available. And we had to reroute everything. It was quite the adventure. Anyway, so that was not anticipated, but it was like an okay perk for getting delayed and not getting to the hotel until 2 a.m. I recorded some content most of the day, both a little bit of a long form and then a couple of short form, which are going to live on their patient facing website. They may also use that for some social media and or ads. Like I was pretty open to kind of their use of that content because again, it is something that I can use for, future work to say, hey, here's this professional, studio recording. Here's how it went. They thought I did a really great job. I could use that as the experience as well. And I received around 10,000
That's
for
insane.
for that work. There were a couple meetings beforehand that were also kind of paid in regards to working through the scripts and everything, but I was very okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a medication that I think is really helpful, and it is one. The data looks good. It's effective. There are very strict rules when it comes to pharma advertising in regards to there were multiple people on site ensuring that everything was hitting kind of compliance measures, and all of that compensation is also documented, recorded through the Sunshine Act, which I know you kind of mentioned off the bat.
Yeah, let's talk through, because that's something that I know a lot of physicians, whether they're already enrolled in Master of the Media or just interested in this topic, have in the back of their heads of can I really work with brands because of the Sunshine Act? And
Yeah.
and
Yes.
obviously the answer is yes, but let's
Yeah.
talk through, I'm not even certain everyone listening understands what we're talking about. So let's break it down.
Yeah. So essentially, there is legislation that was passed many years ago that says, hey, we need to be more transparent with the money we're getting from pharma, from medical devices, and biologics. So this is only kind of related to those specific product categories. But physicians, medical, medical schools and places of medical education, and a few other, designated entities, they are required to report any money they may receive from pharma. And part of this was, it was found that doctors who received money from pharma did have different prescribing practices than those that did not. So, back when I was in medical school in circa 2006 to 2010, it still was fairly commonplace for pharma to have pens and all these little swaggy things that they would bring by offices. And it's around this time that this legislation went through. So by the time I reached residency, pharma was not bringing as often lunch in for the office or kind of these different things. And all of that now is reported in a centralized database. So anytime I might go to a drug dinner where I learn about a different drug or, do kind of, for instance, this brand work, or anytime a researcher receives funding from a company to engage in research that's funded by them, all of that is reported in this national database. So folks can look up my name. They can see how much money I have received from pharma, which companies it's from. And I think there's a little more detail as to, I haven't looked up in a little bit. I don't know if it designates exactly what the work was for, if it was for research versus consulting. I believe there is a little bit of additional data there. And then, for instance, if I were to, so I submitted an abstract to try to present some, I don't know, call it research, but some information about how our practice is set up at an international conference. I haven't heard if it's accepted yet or not. But as part of that process, I had to write down any financial disclosures related to that work. So, and if it was related to anything I was talking about, or proposing I talk about, which it wasn't, but I did have to write all of that down so that they could cross-reference that. And I will say, as someone who has been on the committee that reviews those, that is something that we would look at as part of a committee member of the American Academy of Allergy, Asthma, and Immunology. I would help go through and review those different speakers and their disclosures. And if there was thought to be some sort of competing interest, I had to click a box and then, say, hey, speaker, we need you to do XYZ for your talk so that we can try to be as transparent and minimize any of that influence to the best of our ability.
And I mean, that's probably like a disclosure slide at the beginning of the presentation, things
Correct.
like that, right?
In some instances, there also are some adjustments folks will be asked to make to their talk to say, hey, you need to make sure it's fair and balanced, that you're talking about all the drugs, like in a particular class. Make sure you're just using the generic name, some other things. In addition, I can't remember all the choices. It's been a couple years.
Yeah. And that's honestly that's something that I would encourage people to do like it's most of the time required, but like it's the same concept of, do you have a disclosure page on your website where you're saying like, these are the last 10 brands I worked with, or these are the brands I worked with over the last 5 years, that even a journalist can go and say, is Amy unbiased? Is Kara unbiased about the topic that she's talking about?
And I tell patients off the bat, like when I talk with them about this new hives medicine, for instance, I will say, hey, FYI, I did do some consulting with the company. And I think you should know that. I also do think it's worth a consideration in your situation because of XYZ. But also, here are all the other tools that we have that we could also think about. And here's why that one might be better, or this one. I talk through all those options.
Yeah. But I mean, at the end of the day, if, you believe in something so strongly that you did pay to work for them, like I would actually give that consideration even more weight. Like, yes, I should consider this medicine because, you did this work with them.
Yeah.
So with the Sunshine Act, is that something that the pharmaceutical company reports on your behalf?
Yeah. So anytime you do, like, for instance, I went to a meeting with some of the medical science folks for that same medication last week locally, and I had to sign my name, and that will all get reported, and whatever it costs for my meal will be reported.
So it'll be like compensation $10,000 plus $34.16.
Probably a little more because it was a fairly nice restaurant.
Yes. Well, good for you. Let's talk about liability, because I know that's another big consideration of like, what protections should you as a practitioner have in place to protect yourself, your assets, your practice?
Yeah. So it is important to have specific liability insurance related to this work. And I am not an insurance or law expert. And so I had spoken with some colleagues and connected with an insurance broker to help me ensure that I had kind of the right coverage for the work I was doing. So I have my medical malpractice coverage for my practice, but then I have separate coverage related to the other, media brand work that I'm doing. What I intend to do, probably within this next year, and I need to talk with my accountant team about this, but is to actually separate into a separate LLC for my consulting brand work and have that separate from my clinical entity. Last year was our first year with clinical. Like before that, it was just a little consulting kind of coaching type work. And so I need to kind of look at that overall bigger kind of business strategy as we've grown and had more opportunities. Sounds like a great time to do that.
That's actually, it's a really good idea, because what all of this means, so like the word LLC literally has the word, it's like has the word liability in it, limited liability company. And so the way that all of this works, right, is like, if someone sues you, and I'm just going to say, like, I've been doing this for decades and nobody's ever sued me, thank goodness, but you want those protections in place in case they do. You don't want them to be able to try and take assets that are unrelated to what's going on. And that could mean your personal assets if they're, suing your practice. That could mean your clinical practice assets if they're, going after something related to your brand partnership. And I just want to say again, like, this is out of an abundance of caution that you do this.
Yeah, it's just better to CYA.
Yeah.
I'm not like, I feel like coming out of this conversation, people are going to be like, oh, ask for permission. I tend to be like a beg for forgiveness-ish person, a good bit of
Same.
time, but those are some situations that you just don't want to get,
Yeah.
caught with your hand in the cookie jar.
Also, I mean, like I have a 15-page contract and that I like literally spent all day yesterday looking through, but like in there is a whole page of insurance requirements. And so a lot of times brands will say like you need to have this kind of protection in place. And that's literally, I mean, and this sounds scarier than it is. Literally like your academy, I'm sure it's the same for you. Like for me, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics has a special relationship set up with this company called Pro Liability. I go to them, I pay like $500 a year for my, my dietitian insurance, and I can add additional protections like such as, cybersecurity and things like that if I want to.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that docs are that organized. I think the family practice folks are. I went to a primary care conference and they had an insurance person, but I don't know that I've seen that within the allergists.
Wow. So what, like, what?
Yeah, I need to go explore.
Do you mind sharing like what insurances you personally have in place?
Ooh,
like just, like the categories, like.
Yeah, so I have medical malpractice. I have like a cybersecurity in part because my practice is primarily telehealth based. And then I have like a business liability policy too.
And are those all through one company or different companies?
It's through the same broker, but they're different companies.
Okay. So, I mean, that sounds pretty boilerplate, like.
Yeah, I think the cyber is part of the liability. Like, I think it was an upsell kind of situation.
That sounds like something that would make sense.
That's reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that doesn't sound scary, like, and.
No, and the liability is so much less than, I mean, I think it was less than $1,000 for all of that, compared to medical malpractice, which is like multiple thousands.
So that's, I mean, that I think in its own is something that people are afraid of, is like, well, if I start working with brands and am I going to spend more in liability coverage than I am going to make? And the answer, it sounds like, is no. You'll make a lot more than you'll spend in insurance coverage.
Yes, certainly.
Okay, so those were like my big questions. We covered the Sunshine Act, we covered liability insurance, we covered, if you need to ask permission from your employer, like what else do we need to consider if we're a physician working with or wanting to work with brands?
I'm going back to thinking outside the box, right? As I was getting involved in Master of the Media, I think my initial thought was, does this have to all be supplement related or food related? And I think because, your background and frankly, kind of a lot of the folks in the program are, especially when I started, dietitians, and that certainly has evolved and grown, right? A lot of us have that thread of lifestyle medicine. And again, like the variety and diversity of folks in the group is awesome. We have GI, dermatology, like
OBGYN.
Yeah. Like, allergy, immunology, family medicine, internal medicine, pediatrics. And so I think it has, and then seeing some of the other opportunities in the group too have really helped me think outside the box. And kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, that yes, we are physicians. We also are humans, and you're having your human experience, whether that's as a parent or a partner or a pet parent or whatever, right? And even as you think of products, one of the things that in the end, we didn't end up having a deal work out, but I was approached by an HVAC company, so like a heating and cooling company that's regional to my area, in part because they saw the potential synergy. And it really kind of opened my eyes to the idea of like, oh, their ideal client is the mom of the house, because the mom is making the decisions on the air purifier and the water purification system in the house. It's not the, in a typical, kind of the stereotypical, wife, husband, relation. It's the mom that's making those decisions. And those are my people that are following me too, that are health conscious. And I was like, oh, wow, that's huge. And so that got me really just thinking about this overarching concept that has come up in a lot of business training, but like, where are your ideal people? Because, they are humans having human experiences too. So you can really think outside the box of, is it the local play place? Is it, particular other products that they're shopping for? Because those could make some really unique and exciting and interesting collaborations potentially.
Yeah, I mean, it could even be like the sheets. Like, I have a baby, so I'm like always thinking about like, is it like organic cotton clothes for your baby? Like, it could literally be anything.
Absolutely. For like a dermatologist, pediatrician, allergist, like that's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, I always encourage our students to like really just think about outside of the box ideas and like push, like it could be any part of your life. Like, I just went to Europe on a completely covered vacation where, the value was like, 5 or 6 or 7,000 euros, which is more American dollars, where I stayed at this medical spa and they ran all these tests and I got all these, spa treatments and did exercise classes and they were completely covered. Like, it was a free
we need to chat about that. Yeah. that kind of blew my mind. And I was like, And part of where I've been kind of going with that, which is not quite as fun, exciting, but there are a fair number of professional meetings I would love the opportunity to go to this coming fall. And so I'm looking for opportunities now that especially I'm on my own. I don't have a CME budget from the university to pay for my travel. But are there opportunities for me to do some work with those companies that are planning on being at those meetings that helps me, one, have a paid ticket and hotel room there, and also maybe have the opportunity to do some paid work while I'm there as well.
Yeah, I mean, that would be like, if you could get your way into ACLM and join us there, that would be
American College of
amazing.
Rheumatology. There's this meeting that I submitted an abstract for is in Paris. Like,
wow.
yeah.
I mean,
how can we make this work?
Yeah. And I mean, just to put lots and lots of ideas out there, like I'm currently in the process of planning my vow renewal because my husband and I got married during COVID. We never had, a wedding reception, person one. And so I'm just like, there's something called in-kind partnerships where I'm like, can I have gift bag items? Can I have, fever tree, mixers, like these premium items that like, are a little out of budget maybe for, but if we can get them covered.
Definitely.
So I would encourage anyone listening kind of just like take a look through your day. Like, what brand of sunglasses do you use? Like sunscreen, like go through your routine. Like, what do you shampoo your hair with? What kind of deodorant do you use? Like all of these habits are, what kind of do you use dishwasher? Like, plastic free pods. Like there's so many opportunities throughout your day to integrate wellness. And most of them actually don't have to do with pharmaceutical companies.
Absolutely. That gave me a really great idea. So, and I'm going to mention, because I'm sure that there's another probably dietitian mom, doctor mom. I'm going to focus on mom because I think it is.
Yeah, we're a lot of women.
Yeah.
In Master the Meat.
So my youngest is about to start 4-day-a-week preschool and we have a nanny. And so we're still going to need her full time just as a nature of like when he's sick or our older two are sick or there's a day off school, what have you. But I'm trying to think of creative ways because she still needs a full-time job, right? And so I'm trying to think of creative ways to help make best use of her time. Well, now I have an idea of like, we're going to go around the house and like take stock of the different products we're using, right? Like here, let's come up with a little playbook during some of that downtime.
Yeah, like this is Kara's family, a day in the life of, this is the laundry
Yeah.
detergent that they use. This is the toothbrush, the toothpaste brand, and every
Stay in a little
single
database.
every single one of those items are brands that you can reach out to and potentially partner with. It's
Love
always
it.
like get paid to live your normal life. Like don't try and live a different life to meet the brands like that never works. If you're like, well, I'm going to switch, brands of toothpaste because I want to work with this toothpaste company. I don't want to switch brands of toothpaste.
Unless it's something that you really want to try. So
Well, sure.
there is like I'm going to figure out how I can talk about this without totally giving away what it is, but there is a particular product that I really would like to try and kind of do a little experiment from a health standpoint. There's like a little bit of evidence that it may be helpful with my autoimmune condition, but not a ton. And frankly, but there is some like longevity kind of aspects to it. And so, I could order the kit to do this experience on my own and I could get it at a discount because they do have an affiliate program and they do have, clinician pricing. And also if there's an opportunity to say, hey, here's our experience, maybe I haven't told my husband this, but maybe we do this experience together. He's a cardiologist, like bonus, even though he's not on social at all. And and let us share about that, and let's come up with a brand deal and make something even more exciting out of the experience.
I love that. I mean, there's like if we're like thinking, super outside of the box, and I'm gonna say this and you guys are probably gonna know what I'm talking about, but whatever. There's like a non-prescribed MRI company that you can,
yeah,
like it's all over Facebook if you scroll and you're like, hey, I can just go get a preventative MRI. But they're like, depending on which one you choose, they're 2,000 to 4,000. And so, it's on my list to reach out to them and kind of say, like, I'd love to get that test done for my husband and I, and, we can create content for you. And you can use it for ads. Yeah.
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 And hopefully you don't have an incidentalloma.
I know. Oh my goodness. There's like food companies too. Like, have you done a partnership with like something, like a food?
I have a list that I've started. There are a couple like newer to me products that I would like to reach out to. So I have the secret dream of wanting to eventually author a cookbook. And so like it's
not secret.
Yeah, not secret anymore. But and so kind of this slow roll of playing around with different recipes at home. I love spending time in the kitchen. And so there are a few products that I've just come to. There's a pasta that I just love. It's like higher in fiber and protein and it tastes good. Like what? And my kids will eat it and they don't complain about it. Huge, right? And so I started following them on social and I just stocked up on their product for Prime Day, but that's on like my list to reach out. There's a flour company that's kind of similar. I love baking sourdough. I'm not the best at it, it's work in progress, but I find it super fun and therapeutic. And so again, like, I kind of have these on my running list.
Love it. There's actually a product, I'm not going to remember their name off the bat, but it's like they created this starter in this little package that you don't have to like nurture the starter over time. Anyway, remind me to tell you about that one. But
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and just to give you guys ideas, like it could be a commodity, and what a commodity means is that's like a group of farmers that come together to support a crop. So it could be, the Haas Avocado Board or, California strawberries. And so with these commodities, you can literally, like USA Pulses, you literally can get paid to say, hey, everyone, eat, chickpeas and white beans and black beans, because those are pulses, eat your strawberries. And I mean, it's literally like all the foods that were on my daughter's plate for dinner last night, you could get paid to represent.
Amazing. All anti-inflammatory and great for your tummy bugs and turning down inflammation.
There you go. See, that's why they should hire Kara and all of you guys who are listening. Do you have any other words of wisdom to share with our listeners?
I think the biggest take home is to just start daydreaming, to think about like, and then to take that first step, I think is really important. I just would encourage it, being able to take the pressure off my clinical productivity has been so huge for my mindset. And burnout. I have been in a place and space of clinical burnout more than once. And, I made this switch in my clinical practice in part to try to avoid that. And what I quickly learned was you can end up back on the treadmill very quickly. And so this work, I find it super fun. I find it good, challenging. It's helping me build skills that are going to be, applicable across my career, feeling more confident and comfortable in front of cameras, reaching out. I am a typical millennial that doesn't want to pick up the phone. And so
Same.
getting some of those reps in has really been super helpful. And, in having some folks around me to help me shift my mindset too, because sometimes my mindset does go back to this, I feel weird selling myself or what I have to offer. No. Like I sent an email just yesterday morning to a company that I kind of was having a little bit of that mindset going into it, and had some folks help me, reframe of like, no, you are offering this company an incredible opportunity to get in front of the audience that they need. If they don't recognize it, that's on them, but you really are doing them a favor. And so don't sell that short.
Yeah. And I think that's a really strong takeaway is, yes, you're getting compensated by these companies, but you're also doing them like a really big favor by getting them in front of the audience that honestly they'd have to pay like 5 or 10 or 20 times more dollars to get in front of, through traditional, things like commercials and like print ads.
And along with that, they have essentially your name and likeness along with that carries significant weight.
Yeah. Don't.
As an expert with influence.
Exactly. Like, do not sell yourself short, especially for like how many years of education and credentials and like board certifications. Like, it takes.
Yeah, I've lost count.
That's how many. I've lost count. So thank you so much, Kara, for spending this last hour with us. Where can people find you? What do you have going on that you want people to know about?
So we are just about to launch the 5th annual virtual Sjogren Summit. So Sjogren's affects 1 in 50 women. It is one of the most common autoimmune conditions that no one knows how to spell or say. If you want to learn more about it, it's free to attend. It's I'm sure you'll have the spelling of the link in the comments, but it's sjogrensummit.com. And then I'm really active on LinkedIn, just with first name, last name, and YouTube, which is at Dr. Kara Wada as well.
Amazing. So we'll include all of those links in the show notes. And also, if anyone listening just wants to learn more about what you can earn working with brands, check out Master the Media's free pricing guide at masterthemedia.co/pricing.
And then come join us and master the media. It's so much fun.
It honestly, it's so much fun. Thank you so much.